It's NPR. I am available if you would like to hire me. NPR. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Don't care. What's going on? What's up? What's happening? What is the thing? What is, as they say in the streets, the dealio?
Dude, I don't believe they say that in the streets. I also do not believe you have been anywhere near the streets, sir.
Okay, fine. I live on an avenue. Does that count?
See, you don't even live on a street.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
You're about as far from the streets as you can be.
Fine.
Did you ever hear the Kevin Smith explaining the whole story of the script he was writing for Superman Returns?
No.
And all his dealings with the wackadoodle John Peters, the producer. I have to find this YouTube video so that you can at some point sit down and watch it, because it's fantastic. Kevin Smith was brought in. Oh, they split it into two parts. Kevin Smith was brought in to do a treatment of the script for Superman Lives. And the producer was John Peters, who did like Batman. He did Wild Wild West. He did a bunch of stuff. And so Kevin Smith at a speech he was giving, he told the whole story of how he ultimately ended up not doing the script, because it went that well. It's fantastic. It is such an amusing story, and I don't want to give anything away, but okay. I'm giving you the link so that you can watch it and direct others to watch it.
And this has relevance. Okay.
Well, what happened was at one point, John Peters was having this discussion, and he wanted to do Superman really, really dark. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to have Superman be like the stone cold killer. Mm-hmm. And he looks right at Kevin Smith. He says, "You know why we're going to do a great Superman movie?" And Kevin Smith says, "Why?" He says, "Because you and me, we get Superman. Because you and me, we're from the streets." And, John Peters was like Barbra Streisand's hairdresser, I believe. That's how he got into producing. Huh. And Kevin Smith is like this mayonnaise white boy from suburban New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And he's just sitting there and he's thinking that in his head. He's like, yeah, we have never been anywhere near the streets. But the whole thing is great, and it culminates with a giant spider and explains why there was a giant spider robot in Wild Wild West.
Oh,
so
okay,
yeah, it's really worth a watch.
Alrighty, I'll put that on the list of things which I have been told to watch.
A list which grows and grows, but never seems to get any smaller.
It's weird. It's like that whole sock thing we were talking about earlier. One of these days, I'm going to run that experiment. I'm going to put a load of laundry in that has no socks in it whatsoever, just to see how many turn up.
Right? Mm-hmm. Somebody put out a comment on the internet somewhere. It became a meme or whatever, that every time a sock disappears in your laundry, because it always happens,
right? Somewhere
in your house, the lid to a Tupperware container appears with no actual Tupperware container to match.
Oh, okay.
So that's why you end up with no socks and endless lids of Tupperware containers.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Makes some kind of sense, I guess. What have you been up to, sir? I have been up to nothing. I have literally done nothing but continue to play Diablo for no reason whatsoever.
Living the dream, huh?
That's right.
I haven't actually touched video games in a week and a half now.
Oh no. Now we're off the entire video game thing. Did you overdose on video games?
Oh. I might have. That happens every so often. Mm-hmm. It's probably the giant Hollow Knight analysis project.
Uh-huh.
Where I have now decided to map the whole game and prove that there is an excellent critical path that the developers undermined. Yeah, so I might burp myself out a little bit.
So you're going for internet famous.
Yeah, because Lord knows, I haven't hit that.
Yeah. You and 12 other people care about that particular specific topic.
Actually, one of the, like, because I live on YouTube these days. It's all I watch. I don't watch TV. I don't watch streaming. I just watch videos on YouTube. And it's funny when you type in one topic on YouTube and watch one video, you discover just how many people have been making videos dedicated to this one topic. Because that's all that appears in your recommendeds. And apparently Hollow Knight is the subject of every video game channel's deep analysis videos for, well, I mean, like 4 or 5 months ago.
Right.
You know.
When it was popular.
Yeah. Well, you know, you have the people who do all the lore analysis, and then you have the people who do the world map analysis and all this other stuff. And yet nobody can still actually figure out the critical path in the game. But I think I have. I just will never write it up now because I got bored before that project finished.
It's like my brother. My brother got this thing. It's a 1-up arcade machine. Have you heard of these?
No.
They're like,
maybe?
I want to say like 3/4 size stand-up arcade cabinets.
Okay.
Which basically are full of games from like the old arcade days, like Asteroids and Centipede and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I got this one particular cabinet. It's the Arcade 1-Up Deluxe cabinet, which has like 12 games in one in it.
Yeah.
And they're all the games that used either the rollerball or the Tempest spinner, for like Tempest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Tempest had the paddle that was the little knob that you would turn back and forth.
Right.
And then like Missile Command had the trackball.
Right, Missile Command and Centipede, Millipede, and all that other stuff. Anyway, the point being, while the games themselves are probably just fine, the actual controllers supplied with the actual board, control board supplied with the games is terrible.
Really?
The spinner ball does not spin, or not the spinner ball, but the spinner knob, the paddle knob, doesn't spin properly. It's ratcheted, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
okay. And it feels very plasticky. It has no weight to it, so once it starts spinning, it stops really easily, which is not what you want in a game of Tempest. You know, and the rollerball feels real plasticky and that kind of stuff. It's on like nylon bushings or something. Anyway, point being, he decided he was going to fix this, and so he went and he bought a new what is it called? It's like an official, actual, made for real purposes, spin track spinner thing.
okay.
It's called an Ultimark spin track spinner. I'm not
sure.
that
Ultimark is exactly the name that conveys.
I know.
Meaning.
It's
a perfect product name.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's solid. It's made out of actual metal rather than a bunch of plastic stuck together. That kind of stuff. Anyway, point being, he got this thing. And he's gonna install it. He decided he would, because apparently the big thing is the people going around talking about how terrible these things are. He decided, just as a one-off, he was gonna make a video. He's never made a video before. Anything,
which obviously means it's easy to do.
It's it's apparently very easy to do. So he goes through this whole thing. He comes up with like 4 or 5 videos on the whole deal. All right. How he's modified things and the whole process and all this kind of stuff. And it's terrible. Okay. Because I've been making videos on the side for how long? How many years? I don't know. He's got 5 of them. He's over 1,000 views on each. And I'm like, okay, fine. Just go make your videos. Just go make your video. I haven't got a video that's over 1,000 on anything. Apparently, everybody on the internet has to know how to do this to their arcade 1-up machine. Everybody.
You do realize that you're kind of going, you yourself are now passing through the origin story of Captain Disillusion, right? Like your ultimate goal is going to be debunking videos.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I just checked out this Ultimark thing. It's not a product, it's a brand.
Yeah,
and they sell parts for building and restoring arcade cabinets.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat.
I mean, you can't fault him. He did do his research.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one other thing, because remember last year, like a year and a half ago, I built the tiny Nintendo using a Raspberry Pi.
Right. I do remember that.
Yeah, I've actually been working on a tiny Nintendo too.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, because the SD card that I used for the first one, it wasn't didn't have a lot of space on it. So I couldn't put arcade games in there. So I got a new SD card, and I just have to sit and burn the programming to the SD card, and then move all the ROMs over. And, because basically you just swap out the little brain in there.
Right.
But as I was doing this, one of my dreams is to someday build an arcade cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just get the little controller, and I could just do it through a Raspberry Pi, though it doesn't have the best arcade emulation. And just, mount a joystick on it and put the button on the front so that you could just turn the thing on and start it up, and buy a small flat screen to mount in it, and then just build the cabinet itself. That's going to be one of my projects for when I have an actual home and a basement where I can do woodworking and things like that. So
cool.
I know other people have done it. I mean, I had a cousin who did it. He did the same thing. Just made his own arcade cabinet with 1,000 arcade games in it.
Yeah. I mean, it on the surface, it seems like a really good idea.
Yeah, and it's not something that's terribly difficult. Like, all the information you need to do it is out there. You just have to be willing to do a little bit of research. And then you've got companies like Ultimark that sell basically everything you need to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking like here you buy a joystick, and then you buy button panels so that you can do your own custom controls. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's I mean, fair's fair. It looks like good stuff. It looks like really good stuff.
As we speak, actually, I'm sitting here making pre-generated characters.
Oh, what are we pre-generating characters for, sir?
I am running a 2-shot adventure. For a couple of friends of mine online before I go away for Christmas. Just two sessions, over 2 weeks. 2 sessions. One week and then one the next week. Just for funsies, because I was sorry.
Is it, no? I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is different than your Pathfinder gang, right?
Oh, my Pathfinder game is dead for the moment.
Oh, nice. Okay, all right, carry on.
Yeah, with everything going on in my life, the Pathfinder group, which was fueling a series of articles I was writing, this is just fantastic. We're not actually starting the game until January.
Awesome.
We had to put off the start till after the holidays.
Okay,
and that was about 3/4 my fault. But one of the issues I ran into too is when I start a new campaign, particularly if there's going to be any sort of narrative focus and anything involving the personal goals of the characters involved, I don't like to run the first session without everybody there.
Right.
Otherwise it just creates that one character who missed because that first session is where you're just setting up the world, right? It's just a setup session.
Right.
It's like, welcome to my world. And and that's when you're on your first date behavior. Where it's like, now I'm going to wow you with all my world details before you just get bored and start narrating with mechanics. Like, 6 damage, whatever. just reading off the stat block for the settlement when they arrive. Yes, you've arrived at Red Bridge. It's a small town with 300 residents, 96% of which are human.
Are you sure? I want to check that number. Line them up.
It is an anarchic syndicracy.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, and the other thing is I have one player who is brand new to role-playing games, has never played before.
Right.
And one player who has been a lapsed player. They played years ago and they're coming back into it.
Well, at least your newbie is getting an authentic experience. Nobody can agree on a time, place, date, anything.
Right. I mean, that's totally fair. It takes a month to get it off the ground.
Right.
But the thing is, the one who was going to end up missing the first session every time we tried to schedule it was also the newbie. Because her her daughter gave birth, so she decided that being with her new granddaughter in Texas for a couple of weeks was more important than starting this game. So it's bad enough when an experienced player is the one playing catch up on the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't want the new player playing catch up on the mechanics.
Did you ever think, sir, in your long gaming history, that you would ever be able to sit down at your table and say, I have a grandmother playing in my game?
No, I did not. Because girls don't play D&D.
No. God. Right to him, not to me. Right to him, not to me.
You know what? Anyone who says that, by the way, or that girls didn't have a place at D&D, or that, the game was unwelcome, yada, yada, yada. Anyone who says that has never looked back at gaming. Has never actually looked back at the art, has never looked back at the advertising, and never played at these games.
Uh-huh.
I have pretty much had girls at my gaming table since after puberty, because during puberty, you don't interact with girls.
Right.
It's all confusing and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But once you hit that certain level of maturity, once you're in high school, it's fun. I can't remember a time when I've ever run a game without a girl at the table.
You
honestly. Or more.
You matured quickly, didn't you?
Me? Personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Why? What does that mean?
Once you're done with puberty, high school.
Okay, yeah, I guess. You know what I mean? Like in those middle school years.
Right.
It's
right.
Yeah, no. Remember all the middle school or the junior high school dances were all just people plastered against the opposite walls, staring at the other side, afraid to walk through the middle of the room.
That awkward middle ground between cooties and hello.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. So Pathfinder is dead.
Yeah, so Pathfinder will be starting off later, it's starting off in January, and then those articles will come back. But in the meanwhile, I also had a game that I had to put on hold that I was running for a small group of friends online because I decided to move and write a book and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And man, is it hard to restart a campaign.
Yeah.
Like once you put a campaign on hold for any length of time, you might as well just kill it. In fact, in my old gaming group, we had a rule called the 3-week rule.
Mm-hmm.
If we missed 3 scheduled sessions in a row for whatever reason, the campaign was dead.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even try. We lost a lot of campaigns that way, to be honest.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Which is how I got really good at starting campaigns.
Can't tell you a thing about finishing any of them. How to wrap them up or nothing. But
let me ask you a serious. So, in terms of like an actual campaign with mm-hmm. sort of an ongoing story, and mm-hmm. Where there's some sort of destroy the ring or whatever quest mm-hmm. going on.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever finished one?
Oh, I've never finished a campaign. Never.
I am actually curious now. Out there, like this is the big question that we'll comment on in 4 weeks right? Because we're not gonna be talking again for a little while after this. Or do we have one more in here?
I think we have one more.
I think we have one. Okay. It's not next week though, right? It's the week after.
I'll look later.
Okay.
I think there's definitely one more between now and the end of the year that is you and I, and we end the year with a book one. So whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, just ready to comment. Have you ever actually finished a campaign? If you're totally 100% honest, and when I say that, I mean a campaign that had a definite that there was going to be an ending, that there was going to be a resolution. Not one of these, they're adventurers and they just adventure until they're done adventuring.
Right.
I have ended a lot of campaigns with TPKs.
A lot, yeah. I was going to say, I've never finished a campaign, but I've ended lots of campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. So, but I mean, I have actually gotten to the end of a few stories. I have seen the end of campaigns. And usually those are the ones where I was smart enough to number one, know what the end was going to be, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, plan a deadline. Okay, this campaign is 1 year long.
Okay.
Something like that.
Sure.
So
There's like little timers on all the characters that go off in a year, and we're done. That's it.
Yeah, their
Doesn't
battle
matter.
royale collars explode.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what they're doing, where they are in the story. They're just done. A year later, done. Ended.
Well, it's one of those, the world will end on exactly this date, on exactly this It's a very specific prophecy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's the rarest type of prophecy in fantasy.
That's right.
You know, in the
totally
year
accurate.
of Groon, on the 27th of Frost, at 12:16 p.m., the world will end.
That's right. There is no more. We're done. Yeah. No.
Unfortunately,
don't try to
it's very vague about the steps required to avoid that.
Yeah. Don't try to save it. That's not the point. There's no saving it. It's inevitable. It's already written. Guys, you're going to lose, but it won't be your fault.
God, my players would kill for a campaign with that promise.
Yeah.
You'll lose, but I'm not going to blame you.
Oh, well.
And anyway, so I'm running a one-shot game. Just before the holidays, just to get some gaming in, and because these folks have been extremely patient. And I have decided I wanted to do science fiction action adventure.
What?
Yes.
That doesn't sound like you at all.
Why not? Oh, I love that stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, then it sounds entirely like you. Perfect.
Yeah, I don't go in for that science fantasy bullcrap with the space wizards and their laser swords.
Oh.
but
give me a good case of Firefly and I'm out the door, huh? No?
You know what? Actually, Firefly, the show I liked it. It was enjoyable.
Yes.
But I don't worship the thing.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of the obsession that people had with it is
here we go.
Where they thought it could go if it was allowed to continue.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
the unrealized potential is what we call that.
Right. They love what it never was.
Right.
And that said, like it was quirky and it was fun, but I like my sci-fi a little more, like sci-fi, not, just cowboys in space.
Mm-hmm.
Though I can't fault that the Western, like the Western tone actually does suit that kind of science fiction.
Yeah, because frontier is a frontier.
Right. And in fact, that's one of the things I'm playing with in this. So I've had this idea rattling around in my head for a while.
Okay.
Right. I'm a big fan of the Metroid games. I don't know if you've heard.
I have heard that you possess that particular ailment. Yes.
Yeah. And if you go back, I love to go back and read the instruction books from old video games.
Half our audience just went, instruction books?
Yeah,
what?
I know.
I don't know what that is.
Because they're a delight. And there was actually backstory to the first Metroid game about how the Galactic Federation had organized teams of bounty hunters.
Teams?
Teams of because what happened was they couldn't enforce the law. They couldn't keep control of the galaxy themselves. The galaxy was too big. Fast and light travel, all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead, they would, for small things or highly dangerous things, instead of mobilizing military forces, they'd hire small groups of mercenaries and bounty hunters to go take care of these problems. And they were called the Space Hunters, which is a terrible name, I admit. And one of the greatest space hunters of all was Samus Aran, who, she was called in to wipe out the space pirates and then extinct the Metroids and then wipe out the space pirates again because that didn't take, and then extinct the Metroids again because that didn't take, and ultimately she blew up several planets and turned out that she was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
But the games were fun, so who cares? But the interesting thing was there was one game in the series. It was not, well, there were several games that weren't made by Nintendo. And this was a side trilogy called the Metroid Prime trilogy. And in Metroid Prime 3, they remembered that Samus was just one of many intergalactic bounty hunters who was constantly getting hired by the government to do government things. things. And in that game, Samus is teamed up, and then ultimately, one by one, they turn against her with this group of other super-powered bounty hunters. And each one is, a unique race from the galaxy and has their own themes. And a bit, you have the ice warrior from the ice planet, and you have the shapeshifter, and you have the cybernetic, machine mind guy, and that was a really neat dynamic of like, it's sort of like the Avengers Initiative in space, but toned down a little bit, to a normal power level,
right.
Not, so the thing was, I have wanted to run that game for a long time because I love that universe. And one of the things I love about, certain sci-fi settings is where they say, look, because, in normal sci-fi, you always have like, okay, you have the Galactic Federation, or you have the Empire, or whatever. And you have these big, gigantic, spacefaring, civilizations, right? Even Star Trek was like that, with you had the Klingon Empire and the Federation and all that stuff. And they basically just function like nations today, right?
Right.
It's just a nation in space. But if faster than light travel and communication are just a little less convenient, okay, you would get multi-stellar or interstellar societies and governments that were more like alliances between independent city-states.
Okay.
Because, or stuff like the Old West, where you had these towns that were popping up, and they were trade towns, and they were resources, and yada, yada, yada. But they were so far from the center of government that it was hard to police them properly.
Sure.
And so, like, you had sheriffs and you had marshals and all of that stuff, but they functioned fairly independently because, you couldn't get a message in any reasonable amount of time, and you couldn't wait for orders. And a lot of times you couldn't even mobilize the military, and I mean, that's how you get towns like the town in the Magnificent Seven, where they just had no one to help them against these bandits. Mm-hmm. And the bandits were, riding roughshod over the town because, it was just too far from any center of power to do it, And that is exactly the perfect sort of galaxy where a interstellar government would start to look at like small strike forces that they could mobilize, that they didn't have to pay to maintain, but that they could simply contract out. So you would have, I mean, that's the bounty hunter world right there.
Right.
Right. You're going where we can't catch you, so we have to hire a bounty hunter to go in and get you. That's the whole point of bounty hunters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the universe that I'm playing with.
Awesome. And so how are you making this all fit into D&D 5e?
Go to heck. Yeah, I know this is going to be shocking to everybody, but not everything has to fit into D&D.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. I hate to say it. A friend of Tiny's ran a game for them recently because she wanted to run a Harry Potter game, right? I'm like, oh, that could be really neat. What system is she using? And I rattled off a couple because, honestly, if I was running Harry Potter, I would run it in Fate.
Sure.
And, now everybody who knows me can have a heart attack when I say that.
Nope, makes total sense to me.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She ran it in 5e.
That's different.
I could not think of a system that would provide more obstacles to the Harry Potter universe than Dungeons and Dragons. Any edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
Not great.
No. And I hope she's not listening. I really hope she's not.
Well, I'm sure she pulled it off very well.
Oh yeah, no.
Given the tools.
Tiny had a fantastic time. They all had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like the same argument I had with the Pokemon RPG, where I went looking for a Pokemon RPG because I knew somebody had to do it, and they did it in D20. I'm like, why would you even? Why?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Fate is actually probably the best for the Harry Potter, any Harry Potter style game.
Quite frankly, if I was doing just about any game based on a book series, I would start by looking at Fate, because that's really what it's designed to emulate.
Yeah.
It's designed to emulate ensemble casts in novels, having adventures. For something like Pokemon, right now I'm using Savage Worlds for my space game.
Okay, I can see that. Now that I understand what the game is about.
What?
Now that I understand what the game is about, I understand that.
Yeah, it's space adventure.
Yeah.
Fast, furious, fun action in space.
Yep.
And actually, Savage Worlds, because I have run Savage Worlds in the past, and I have done things like fantasy and horror and things like that. And so I didn't appreciate things like the chase system and their vehicle rules and stuff, and also the ease with which you can build races. Because like normally, when you're starting off designing a game and you've got nothing, you've got a generic system, and it's going to be a fantasy game. What do? You sit down and you stat up your elves and your dwarves and your orcs and your trolls or whatever. Right? But I'm doing a one shot here in a galaxy that could have dozens and dozens of races, and I only need 4 of them, right? Sure. Because I need to make 4 pregens or whatever. So I can actually sit down and just build the 4 races that I want on the fly. And Savage Worlds makes it very easy to build races, especially with the sci-fi companion. So that's an advantage. Savage Worlds also handles very well. As I said, it handles vehicle combat, especially dogfights, very well.
Okay.
It just buried the dogfight rules because it has these rules for chases. Okay, which is basically the chase rules are about different people maneuvering to try and gain an advantage against each other, which then affects their ability to attack and interact. I'm like, okay, well that's sort of interesting. Yeah, that sounds like a chase. But then it also says, oh, by the way, this is also dogfighting. And I'm like, oh yeah, because dogfighting is basically, it's not about fighting first. It's about positional advantage first, getting the opponent in your sights and whatever, and then being able to make the attacks. And the better pilot is going to have advantages, on attacks and stuff. And it's got rules for passengers and stuff. So, other characters can do things like operate the ship's weapons, or you can have multiple fighters in the same chase and stuff like that. So there's all your dogfighting rules, all your little small scale space battle rules, but also you can have things like the speeder bike chase through the forest of Endor and stuff like that. And then it also has slower, bigger vehicle combat rules. So if you want to do things like capital ships or naval combat or stuff, it handles that really well. The other thing it handles really well is every player having control of one or more subordinates or NPCs or extras. So you can run something like the players are participants in like a fighter squadron going up against a capital ship, and they are they are 4 out of the 12 fighters, so they can also take command of the rest of their wings. And the game doesn't assume that the characters themselves are in command, just that the players are in control of the entire allied force.
Right. Okay.
And it scales really well, because I've run games where one of the fantasy games I ran, at one point the players recruited something like 3 times their number in mercenaries. All
right.
Yeah, and they were able, and they basically went and they were fighting a small orc army in the end. And I was able to handle that very well. You're also able to handle things like pets. So if you have the one guy who's the Beastmaster or the Summoner Wizard or stuff. Which is why if I had to throw together a Pokemon system really, really, really quick,
Mm-hmm.
I would probably do it in Savage Worlds.
Would you?
Yeah, because that's one of the features is that everybody can have pets and friends. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially because there's also feats or perks or whatever you want to call them based around using your friends, allies, and subordinates better. You know, sharing your benefits with them or encouraging and inspiring them and what have you. So,
okay, fair enough.
I'm going to try this for space action and see how it goes. And obviously, we're not going to do any mass combat stuff because it's bounty hunter scale stuff.
Sure.
So, you know, maybe one of them will have a robot dog or something. I don't know.
A robot doggy.
I actually have I was looking through the stats of the Sci-Fi Companion because I'm running it in Fantasy Grounds online. So I was just running some tests to make sure I could get it to work.
Sure.
And just building a combat, I'm looking up the stats, and I have stats for cyber dogs. They're just cybernetically enhanced Doberman guard dogs.
Neat.
That's neat.
You could run Fallout.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's never been thought of before.
I wonder if isn't that basically what Rifts is?
Except people would actually play Fallout.
Right. Though people are, from what I hear, people are not playing Fallout right now.
Let's steer away from that mistake.
I normally don't comment on current events here because I don't want to open us to anything.
Right.
But holy cow, it just keeps getting worse.
They've somewhere along the line missed the point of Fallout, or think they have changed the point of Fallout sufficiently that, this is a whole nother episode of an entirely different show.
No, I'm not even talking about that now.
Yeah.
They're getting sued. The FTC is investigating them.
Oh, really? I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, one of the reward items that was given out in their $200 bundle,
the
one they shipped was not what they claimed it would be, and they refused refunds, and their public response was basically, look, this is what it is. It was too expensive to do it the other way. We're not fixing it.
Oh, dear.
Which is a wonderful response. So now there's a class action lawsuit being formed for bait and switch false advertising. And people are trying to get the FTC after them. But the FTC is too busy dismantling EA because loot boxes are gambling.
Right.
Which they have now decided to step in on. I just, I hate to say it. I delight in watching this news. It's like watching a train wreck by people who deserved it.
So supposedly, you were going to get a canvas West Tech duffel bag.
Yeah. As
part of your big old expensive $200, fancy edition, the Power Armor edition, it says.
Yep.
Okay. Instead, what they got was a nylon carrier bag for the Power Armor helmet.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they are considerably different. Oh, wow.
Yeah, yes, they are very, very different.
That is not good.
Nope. No, that's not. That
is
actually
close.
Illegal.
That's not even close to what they're showing.
Yeah. That is actually legally considered bait and switch false advertising.
Yep.
And interestingly enough, you can still buy the $200 special edition on Bethesda's website.
Mm-hmm.
But they changed the caption under the bag to indicate that it is nylon. However, they did not change the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And and they did finally publicly say, "Hey, listen, we're sorry that we said we're not going to fix it. Okay, we're really sorry." And that was a contract employee in one of our call centers. He's not us. We'll make it good. Here's $5 worth of in-game currency that you can buy a door or a flower with. I kid you not.
$5?
They offered $5 worth of in-game currency so that you could buy in-game currency.
Bottle
the
caps.
irony, and somebody pointed out, the irony of all of this is that if you want to buy a canvas cosmetic duffel bag for your character in-game, it's $7.99. So you can't even buy the canvas duffel bag in-game for the $5 they're offering you.
That's impressive. The thing is, though, they're not, it's not, okay, so it's, how do I explain this? The problem is not just confined to Fallout 76,
right?
The MMO, which is another argument entirely.
Right.
The problem also affects the entire Fallout franchise.
Uh-huh.
Because you have one bad experience that tends to spread.
Right.
Okay. It's also going to affect Fantasy Flight Games and their Fallout game.
Right.
And Modiphius Entertainment and their Fallout game.
Right. I mean, this is what happens when you taint a franchise. You know, there was very serious talk about EA never making a Star Wars game again. Disney was, and I don't know where this is going to finally land because it's still going back and forth a little bit. Disney was going to pull the license to make Star Wars video games from EA because of the bad press that surrounded the Battlefront 2 controversy.
Right.
It's very hard to recover a franchise that you have killed.
Yes. And
it affects everything. And you know, I'm going to say this. I am a strong advocate for business and the free market. I think I have made that point several times in the past. But when a business is contemptuous of its customers, it is going to die, and it deserves it.
Yeah.
And that's the last year. Over the course of the last year, we have seen companies coming out and saying absolutely terrible things to their customers. Things like, this is the game we made, and you're uneducated if you think it's bad, and if you don't like it, don't buy it. And whereas in the past, that stuff slid, it's killing these games this year. And I will cheer that on until I am out of breath. Because I myself am sick of it. I am sick of feeling talked down to by people who make products that I used to love and who think that they're entitled to my money because they slap the name Star Wars or whatever on a product. You know, it's like, well, it's a Fallout game, buy it. If you don't care about it, don't buy it. It's like, okay, I won't. It's like, okay, fine. And then their stockholders are like, question, the money that you used to be worth? What happened to all of that?
Yes, where has it gone?
Right? So I'm legitimately sick of it. I'm legitimately sick of companies acting like jerks to their customers. And I am glad that people are also sick of it.
The thing a lot of folks seem to forget on both sides of any given argument about companies and support and all this stuff is nobody is entitled to your money.
Right.
They have to earn it. And if they don't earn it in ways that I consider worthwhile for me personally, they don't get my money.
Yeah, and this is the thing that the entitlement argument often comes up in the other direction. Where if gamers get upset about something, like, oh, you got upset because Diablo's going to be a mobile game.
Right.
Then we start to see all the people yelling about how entitled gamers are. It's like, no, it's not that. I'm perfectly willing to sit here and give you my money. I've paid for this franchise in the past because I love it. And in the past, you have given me great games that I have come to feel passionate about.
Right.
The fact that I'm upset is a consequence of the fact that you built something I loved and have profited off of that for years. Okay. And so it's not a matter of entitlement at that point. It's a matter of, you have done something I don't like. And I am giving you my voice and saying, if you still want my money, because it's not like the company stopped courting the fans. You know, when they made the Diablo announcement, it is not like Blizzard came out and said, listen, we appreciate that you have all been the Diablo fans for years and years and years. We're no longer catering to you. We're going to cater to the mobile industry now. So goodbye. It's that they gathered all of those same people who have been their fans for years and paid for all of their products and, built communities and fun around it. There's that word. People now are pointing out every time I use the word community.
Yes, they're very good at spotting it.
Yep. Very much aware of the hypocrisy. Thank you. And they gathered those same people and now said, now pay us for this thing. Aren't you all excited? Isn't this fun? It's like, no, people are going to be mad. And here's the thing. I would absolutely love, if I was, say, making a product or selling a book or whatever, I would absolutely love having a community of people out there who were worked up enough about my stuff to get mad if the quality dropped.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of passion drives sales. I would also love to have a community that feels strongly enough to tell me when they think I'm going wrong. Because that kind of feedback most companies have to pay for, you know?
Yeah.
And yes, if it's one jerk on the internet who is swearing and cursing at you, yeah, that guy's a jerk. You block him. But if your entire fan base, or 50% of your fan base, or however much, is saying, this is not what we want from you, well, you have a decision to make. Maybe you could decide, okay, this is not my fan base anymore. I want to go in a different direction. Which is fine. You can make that decision. Or you could say, well, okay, I obviously screwed up. Let me admit it to the fans and say, hey, you know, I thought you guys would find this fun. You didn't. My bad. Next game, we're going back to the thing. I can't undo this game we did, but I'm listening to you, and next game, we're going to go back. It would be like, say, if you had this really beloved PC strategy game, very complex, in-depth, turn-based strategy game from way back in the day. And you decided to remake it, but you were just going to remake it as a first-person shooter. And everybody thought that was a terrible idea and told you so. Oh my God, that's going to be a terrible idea. And then you were like, you know what? You're right. That is a terrible idea. Let's make a turn-based strategy game. And then it sold a whole bunch of copies and rebooted the franchise, XCOM. Because that's exactly what happened with XCOM. And XCOM won because they listened.
Right. My issue isn't so much that they have decided. And to be honest, I really don't have an issue here. I'm not invested, okay, in this particular.
Yeah, you don't have a horse in this race.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's fairly obvious, I think, from looking at the presentation since we're on the subject of the Diablo mobile game, it's fairly obvious from looking at the presentation that they handled it entirely incorrectly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care that they're making a Diablo mobile game. I don't think that's the actual issue, in fact, that they're making a Diablo mobile game.
No, it was the contempt.
It was genuinely the way they went about it and presenting that information. A Diablo mobile game is not, I'm sorry, a mainline announcement. It's not your big feature for an entire conference.
No.
Okay? That's not what your company is noted for.
No, and you know, this is the sad thing, is there's some indication now that originally they were going to announce the future upcoming release of Diablo 4.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided that announcement wasn't ready for prime time.
Right.
And now they had the hole to fill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which, if you ask me then, and you know, like those guys who stepped up on stage, the internal memos that got leaked from Blizzard indicated that the people who stepped up on stage knew they were in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's the speech. It's like, hey, listen, thanks everybody for coming to Blizzard. BlizzCon. You know, we love you all. And, you know, we have a reputation for releasing quality games, but taking our time with them to make sure that we release them. You guys call it Blizzard time. Ha ha ha, big joke, because everyone knows Blizzard time is a big joke. But it does mean they take their time to polish their games before they release them. Here's the issue. We had a big announcement, but it's not ready. And we're not ready to announce something unless we think it's good enough to announce, because we don't want you waiting forever for something. In the meanwhile, while we're still working on all of your favorite franchises, Warcraft and Diablo and StarCraft, just list them all, and Overwatch, just so that they can't figure out what the announcement was actually going to be. While we're working on that, we hope this will tide you over. We're bringing a full Diablo experience to mobile. Now, I know it's not quite what you want, but we're hoping you can have some fun with it while we get all your other stuff ready for you.
Right.
You know? Huh? What do you think? And then people would have been much more charitable about it. They say, oh, okay, no, you know, that's cool. Blizzard does this. They delay things because they really do. They have a reputation for releasing quality things late. And if that announcement would have been fine, you know? Instead of trying to sell it like this was the future of the Diablo franchise.
Right.
And maybe, you know, like the other stuff, just if you follow what's going on, yeah, they are making a big push toward mobile. And that is being driven by Activision. the parent company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not great. But, whatever. And then that response, that whole, what's wrong with you guys? Don't you have phones?
Yeah.
You all have phones. It's like, that somebody should have walked up on stage and slapped that guy.
Or at least interrupted him.
No.
So,
I mean, wait
a minute.
Hold on. I don't mean, because I'm going to get flack for this. I don't
Yeah.
mean an audience member should have walked up on stage. I mean, a Blizzard employee should have walked up and slapped that guy and said, no, bad. That's not how we PR. Okay, I don't mean somebody should have attacked the guy for saying that stupid thing.
Right.
I mean somebody should have rolled up a newspaper and smacked him on the head and then rubbed his nose in it so that he learns.
Yeah, it's and I know we've covered this particular case before.
Yeah,
I think we did last time. But it's as you were saying, it's more and more companies seem to be doing this kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe everybody just needs to take a step back and remember not only on the fan side of things, but on the manufacturing side of things. Remember how money gets made.
Right?
It doesn't just appear out of nowhere. You actually have to do something and convince people that the something you are doing is somehow worth them giving you the money.
Right. Did you see CD Projekt Red had a really good burn? Did you see this? So they were giving a speech too, and they were talking. I don't know if they were talking to investors or fans or whatever. It was in a video they released. But they said, they've been watching companies like Blizzard and EA and Bethesda, who are, using microtransactions and changing their games and doing this and doing that, all in pursuit of money. And they announced that they had adopted their own new strategy for making money. And so their new CD Projekt Red's new strategy, and they have an excellent reputation among their fans, by the way. That's the Witcher people, right? So CD Projekt Red said, our new strategy is this. We're going to make awesome games and sell them to people. And that was it. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant burn.
Yeah. Well, see, that becomes, and I didn't know the show was going to be about this when we started.
See, this is what you get when you don't bring anything to talk about in the weekly catch-up.
Yeah. That the entire reason behind things like loot boxes and microtransactions and all this stuff, et cetera, is so that a given company is insulated somewhat from the big spike when a new thing comes out, and then the gradual drop off of income from that thing as everybody picks it up.
Oh no, I absolutely actually, there's two things. One is, as you say, it's about the smoothing of cash flows, which for every business like that has a big release or one product that has to carry them through the year, see also role-playing games. Cash flow management is a major issue, and it got much more complicated about 8 years ago, because it got much harder for businesses to secure credit from banks following the credit crunch, following the 2008 crisis. So no, that is definitely a reason. And the other reason is because now that a lot of these games run on online services, there are costs associated with the game that continue after the game's development is done.
Right.
A company has to pay to keep these servers online. They have to, and they have to pay a customer service department to handle customer service for the online game and tech support and all that stuff. Whereas they can have much smaller teams if they're not running online servers. I mean, I know companies have customer service departments on call, but you have to have, for something like World of Warcraft or Overwatch or Diablo, which is run online, constantly, you have to have a dedicated tech support team specifically to handle issues in that game, So to defray those costs, they had to find a way to keep making money off of the game to help. And I know there are going to be people who say, but they make this much profit off selling the game in the first place. And it's like, yeah, but they also spend a huge amount of money, not just on the development of that one game, but also on the development of other games that don't do so well.
Yeah.
So it's a big issue with them. So this is why things used to be subscription based.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why they had to be.
I'm not unsympathetic to that. Okay. But there are ways to do it without it feeling like you are holding someone down and beating them until the coins stop coming out.
Right. Right.
You know?
And this is the other half of this that I'm getting at is that so the fan base, the player base has to understand there are ongoing expenses that have to be covered.
Right.
Okay. Constantly. Your game comes out. That doesn't mean they're done. It's just, there's things that they have to upkeep. But the companies also have to realize at some point that people are not going to continue to pay their, let's call it an upkeep fee, whatever form it takes. If you treat them as if, they don't matter, but they still owe it to you.
Well, but
provide a reasonable amount of interest in and care in the way they approach it. It's because if either of those two things are out of balance, then the game doesn't happen. There's no game there anymore, basically.
Right. But take a look at, it became an arms race. This is the issue, is it became an arms race. Because, you start off by selling, say, you start off by selling cosmetic upgrades, right?
Right.
Costumes for your character or whatever.
Because
that works really well in multiplayer games.
Right. And the reason you're doing that is because everybody decided that they didn't like it if you could sell ways to beat the game.
Right. Which is also fair, because you don't want your game to require you to pay more.
Right.
Once you've bought the game, you should be able to compete at the same level as everybody else. That's kind of the logic. And I agree with that logic to some extent. I think it's okay if a game comes out with the premise that the people who pay more will win. I mean, that's Magic the Gathering. The people who put more money into it will win. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're kind of upfront about it. Okay. But an online battle arena type game, where you're looking for a really big, broad player base. Yeah, then you don't want to do that because you're going to alienate all new people and you're going to stifle your own growth.
Right.
So they sell these cosmetic enhancements. That went way back to Team Fortress and the hats, right?
Right.
Yeah.
At least that far.
But people weren't spending enough on this garbage because it really didn't do anything.
Right. There's no value to it for them.
Right. So what they could have done is they could have sat and figured out how to sell stuff that is value adds. Okay. And some companies do this, you sell alternate map packs that you can, after you've played all the basic maps in the game, you can compete on these maps, right? Yep. Stuff like that. So you sell value adds, stuff that adds actual value to the game. Or you could start finding ways to trick people into spending more on the cosmetics by, making it a gambling game.
Right. Randomizing. We don't call it gambling. We call it random, sir. I want you to know it is not gambling.
There are several countries that now say it's gambling, and the United States is getting closer to saying that as well.
No, it's random. They're just random.
And the reason that works is because now you and I both know that gambling is a compulsion.
Yeah. Right.
That it plays on human psychology in some pretty insidious ways, which is why we do not let children gamble.
Right.
Because it's not like they're worse equipped than adults to resist it, because adults can't resist it very well either. Right. But they can't be held responsible for their actions, basically. Right. It's their mom's money that they're losing. So that was the thing, is they said, okay, we can do this that makes it a compulsion so that people are compelled to spend money. And then when people accepted that and it started to work, that's great. Now they need more enticements to get more people to try that gambling game for the first time. So that's when they started to shift back to things like a pay-to-win model. That's where Star Wars Battlefront 2 got in trouble, was because they were now selling stat boosts that were randomized. So you would have to buy a chance, basically a lottery ticket. And if you won a really good stat pull. And if you lost, you won a really, a useless costume that you already had 3 of. Which is, by the way, how they get around saying it's gambling is they always say, well, you can't, no matter what, you win something, so it's not gambling, right?
Mm-hmm. That's like going into Las Vegas, looking at one of the slot machines and going, oh, well, I could win $4. Mm-hmm. Or I could win $10,000. But because I can win 4, it's not really gambling.
Right. You put a $5 chip in there, you get 1 chip out. It's like, well, you won 1 chip, so you didn't gamble.
Yeah.
It's like, but the thing I got was worth less than the thing I paid.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't matter. But so they started doing the pay to win thing again. Meanwhile, you saw, what was it? Shadow of War. That was the sequel to Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm.
And they did a very interesting thing where they rebalanced the experience gain in the game, so that to get through to the end game, the minimum level of experience required was so high that if you did not buy certain XP boosting items, it would take you months and months of constant gameplay to do it.
But you can get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and so they were basically compelling you to buy their stat boosts by making the game so boring that you had to make the game fun again.
Wow.
And I mean, they pulled that out, and EA pulled the stuff out of Battlefront because the backlash was so bad, but the damage had been done at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually the Battlefront stuff that has now directly led to several countries in the world, and now the Federal Trade Commission of the United States investigating this and deciding whether they should classify it as gambling and restrict it thusly. So, and they're looking at the psychological impact and asking, well, does it have the same impact as gambling? But that was the problem, is it became an arms race. Because I was playing Elite Dangerous a few months ago. That game has in-game purchases. I can decorate my spaceship. I even spent some money on stuff. I spent some money on new paint jobs for my favorite ship. And to deck out my character a little bit. Not much, but I spent it. Doesn't affect the game in any way. It's not pushed on you. It's not random. You know exactly what you're buying. But there you go. Oh, so long story short, I'm running Metroid and Savage Worlds.
Oh, right. The Creature That Ate Sheboygan, did you get that? Did you end up doing anything with that?
Yes, I did. Immediately after we ended the recording, I did go and purchase it from a seller on Board Game Geek, from the seller that you directed me to, actually.
Oh, okay.
Who within a few days provided me the game, and he also threw in another game. He threw into the package a little card game called Zombiaki 2.
Zombiaki 2. I've never in my life heard of this.
Nor had I. It is apparently a 2-player asynchronous battling game where one player takes on the government of Moscow and the other takes on the role of Russian zombies. And they fight. And it basically plays out sort of like Plants vs. Zombies. There's like little tracks on which the zombies move toward the other player. And everything has all these delightful Russian names and Russian jokes, or jokes about Russia and stuff. And some of it is also jokes making fun of America and capitalism and stuff.
What? Is that allowed?
And at first I thought, I'm like, oh, this is pretty funny. This must be some American company pretending, being a caricature of Russians. No, it turns out it's actually a Russian game, and that's totally straight up.
Wow.
Yeah. I looked it up. So it came out sometime in the 90s, though. It was very hard to find out when it came out because there is absolutely no copyright notice on the box or the instructions.
Huh.
Tiny and I went over every inch of it and could not figure out when this game was made.
Wow.
But yeah, I also did get the creature that ate Sheboygan. It's good that you asked about that because I think we have some feedback about it.
Oh, do we? Okay. But have you had a chance to look through it? The creature?
Yes, I have.
First impressions?
It brings back a lot of memories. It's one of the games that I would have played with my dad. You know, the little it's got a paper board, it comes in a plastic bag. And it's all cardboard chits, the little the little cardboard square markers, and they all have 3 stats along the bottom, you know, attack, movement, defense, because that's how it goes, and little silhouettes to indicate what they are. One player apparently takes the role of a monster that has, and so this is the best part, because Tiny and I were reading the instructions. Our town, Manitowoc, is actually given a nod in the rules to the game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, apparently the story is some creature emerged from Lake Michigan, destroyed Manitowoc, has reached Sheboygan, and must be stopped lest it head on to Milwaukee and Chicago.
I like it.
So one player plays the emergency services, you know, which includes the military, police, and fire. And the other player is the monster, and the monster is basically stomping through the city, destroying things and eating people. And emergency services is trying to stop the monster and put out the fires. There's actually a neat little mechanic for the fire spreading.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's actually a game where buildings will catch fire and then ignite other buildings, and the wind will help the fire spread and stuff. So we haven't played it yet, but it looks neat.
Cool. Leland J. Tankersley. It's kind of a cool name, really.
It is, right?
You know? Leland. Oh, yeah, Leland? What's your last name? Tankersley. Oh, I'll just sit over here in the corner.
Well, I love it because it's got a lot of syllables, but it's also got the middle initial.
Yeah.
So it's like the perfect game or the perfect name for, you know, a 1930s robber baron.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and that's our president and CEO, Leland J. Tankersley.
And I like that. I like that hard K in the middle of Tankersley. That you can get your teeth around that, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, in the comments to episode 56, he points out that the creature that ate Sheboygan, surprise, inspired the computer game Crush, Crumble, Chomp, a fun 1981 computer game for the Apple II, Commodore 64, and VIC-20, which Scott played a long time ago and very much enjoyed, though he has a hard time figuring it out. I don't think he wrote that last part.
No, he knows me really well.
I don't think he wrote that last part.
No, he pointed out that it inspired Crush, Crumble, Chomp. And then I editorialized in adding that to the notes and referred to it as a fun 1981 computer game, yada, yada, yada. Because I had forgotten that game existed, but it was fun.
Right. Okay. Did
I
you
used
have
to play
any
it on
more
my
than
cousin's Commodore. Whenever we'd have family visits with my aunt or my cousin, my cousin had this Commodore 64 computer in the back, in the back office. And he had this whole big thing of floppy disks, all with names of game, you know, just like handwritten labels on each one, like Donald Duck's Playground and Crush, Crumble, Chomp and whatever.
Sure.
And so I would just have endless fun, you know, loading a disc in, booting it up, and seeing what the game was. You know, Space Taxi.
Was that about a taxi in space?
It actually was, surprisingly.
Imagine.
Yeah. It was. Imagine Joust. You remember Joust?
I am imagining Joust, ostriches and polearms.
Yes, in a single screen side-scrolling combat.
Right.
However, now remove the ostriches and the polearms.
Okay.
And put taxi platforms on each of the little... Put a numbered platform on each of the little objects floating in space.
Okay, I'm doing that.
Right. Now you are a little space taxi.
Beep, beep.
People will appear on one platform and you must fly to the platform. And then they will request you deliver them to a different platform and you must fly to that. And of course it has, you know, gravity and like you hold down the button to fire your engines, so you know it's sluggish because you have to accelerate due to gravity and all that stuff, so the controls are impossible and you have inertia and all that stuff. And if you whack into one of the passengers as you're landing, you will kill them.
Okay.
So you're not supposed to do that. Yeah, Space Taxi.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Now,
there was this Cliffhanger. I think it was called Cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very interesting game where each screen was a puzzle where you were a bandit or a good guy. You were a good guy trying to stop a bandit. But it was basically the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote the game.
Oh, okay.
It's like you would be on top of a hill and there would be a boulder you could push. And the guy would come running down the road. And you had to push the boulder at just the right time that it would take him out. And if you missed, the boulder would loop around, go up into the sky, and then take you out instead.
That seems unfair.
Or you would have to pick up a magnet and attract an anvil to drop it on his head at just the right time.
And unlikely.
Right. No. I think it was called Cliffhanger.
Cool. No, I have to ask though. So do we go from the creature that ate Sheboygan to this this Crush, Crumble, Chomp to Rampage?
Yes, Rampage. I don't know. Was Rampage what was the story behind Rampage?
Genetically mutated humans become giant monsters that destroy a city.
No. I mean, what was the story behind the development of the game? You know what? We are really close doing a Word of the Week episode on kaiju here.
Are we?
Yes, we are.
Well,
because we do the history of basically the giant rubber monster movies in Japan.
Yeah.
And all
Godzilla.
Of these various video games.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, writing it down.
Let's see
Adding
here.
It to the list.
86. Rampage came out in 1986.
Well, wait, now don't spoil anything.
Okay, right. It says a number of things, none of which are the creature that ate Sheboygan.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't. You'll have to poke around because
Ralph and George are the same character, palette and head swap.
I'm just on the source of all knowledge, and that only goes so far.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm adding kaiju to the list now.
Okay, that's the thing.
If I could do Utopia, I could do kaiju.
Sure. You bet. Yeah. Okay. Well, there we go. You've done a thing, Leland J. Tankersley.
Wasn't there just a movie based on Rampage?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Oh,
I didn't see it.
So it's that good, huh?
I didn't see it. I had no desire to see it. I've seen enough of The Rock in various things. I don't
think we call him The Rock anymore.
Dwayne.
I think we just call him Dwayne.
Hey, Dwayne. He's going to show up at my door and eyebrow me to death.
No, I wasn't the guy who just got my butt handed to me on national television, Dwayne.
Wow. It's going to turn out one of our listeners out there actually knows him. Is going to forward this episode to him. Hey, listen to these two jackasses.
Well, no, wait a minute. I was just quoting a totally different movie that Dwayne was not even in.
Yeah, not going to matter.
They should do a remake of The Rock starring Dwayne Johnson now.
Jan in the comments of episode 56 says, regarding cooperative games that explore how you communicate without having a committee or one player presenting the optimal strategy, I advise Scott to buy Hanabi. It is a co-op game where you couldn't replace all decision makers by one decision maker. I also recommend to Brian Atlas Reactor if he and his brother play PC games. It also has the disadvantage of being multiplayer, but the advantage of being free to play. In Atlas Reactor, everyone controls one character in top-down grid combat. 2 teams of 4 each try to get 5 kills first. You have 20 seconds of planning simultaneously, enemies and allies and you, after which you resolve all abilities. Abilities you lock in are shown on the map of your team, blah, 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 blah. Okay, a lot of explanation there. And then he finally gets into, I also really recommend the Lego games, especially for the early ones for co-op. Now, I don't know about you, but I went and checked out Atlas Reactor.
Okay, I did not.
And it is exactly as advertised. Each round begins with the planning phase, and you can plan your attacks and your movements and whatever. Those are then executed simultaneously, and then you go into the next planning phase. And
is there a shot clock?
There is a shot clock. You have 20 seconds. You have 20 seconds to decide what you're going to do, which is just enough to raise your panic level sufficiently to worry about the results of whatever you've planned, without being so long as to be, as to take forever.
So the it's exactly the right amount of time.
It is exactly the right amount of time, yes.
Oh, good for them.
And it's as advertised. If you want a little game where you strategically plan out your moves, the communication is going to happen during your execution phase because, frankly, 20 seconds is not a lot of time to have any kind of discussion over how to, who should be where doing what.
Right. Unless you can get it in 2 words.
Right. Exactly.
Is that a cybernetic jaguar?
It could very well be. I don't know what picture you're looking at. It has a number of things. It's got like 32 characters. Okay.
There's a robot dog in it too.
There is a robot dog. There's a little tiny robot dog called Pup.
There's some cybernetic punk gremlins.
There is. It has a lot going for it, I have to say.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Yeah.
Okay. I played through the tutorial. That's as far as I've gotten. I've played through the tutorial. I have it out to my brother to see what he thinks of it. If he ever gets around to actually looking at it, I don't know. But it's out there for him to look at. It is something we may try at least once, but the tutorial itself is... I had to do the tutorial twice. Just to make sure I understood everything that was going on and how it was going on. Because it's not just, plan and move. It's like things occur within a given turn. Things occur in a sequence of phases. Okay.
Right.
So you shoot before you move.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So because obviously then you don't waste shots that way. People don't.
Right.
But there is a way to move before the shooting turn, but that's a special separate thing. It's the only thing you can do that turn.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to get in the right order there, basically. But I think overall it's a neat idea. I want to play around with it some more. And that would be great. As for the suggestion about the Lego games, brilliant. Hadn't thought of the Lego games, the early ones in particular.
I love the Lego Star Wars trilogy that included 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
That was like the pinnacle of the Lego games. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't played any of the others. In fact, there was only one problem when we went to try it the other day. And that is apparently for some reason, I don't know why, the Lego games that you can get on the PlayStation, because that's the platform we started on.
Mm-hmm.
That you can get through PlayStation Now. So there's a chance you don't have to pay for them, right off the bat. You can try them out and see how they work, that kind of. The ones you can get through now and that are kind of free to play, whatever, only support couch co-op. They don't support online co-op.
Oh.
Okay. In other words, for those of you who don't know what the difference is, couch co-op, somebody has to be sitting next to you for the 2-player experience to occur.
Have you checked? I know some of the Lego games did come out on PC.
Oh yeah, they did. We just weren't on PC at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
We had focused on the PlayStation for the moment. But I'm just pointing that out for anybody who goes looking, thinking, oh yeah, hey, this would be great. Because he's right. They are actually the ideal choice, frankly.
One of the neat things about the Lego games that I remember, I can't remember where they added this. I think it was in the Harry Potter one. Where they got around the problem of, if the characters are too far apart, they don't fit on the same screen, and the screen can only zoom out far enough. So you had, the screen would actually split itself once you separated too far.
Right.
Like, and the split, the actual division between the screens, would angle itself based on the relative positions of the characters.
Right.
So it wasn't always just split into 2 rectangles. It would split the screen diagonally and stuff. And it was just a really neat thing. And I know other games have done that since, but it was the first time I saw that, and it just stood out in my mind as a really good solution to the problem.
Yeah. It's I like the Lego games. The Telltale did those. The early ones. I don't know if they still do them.
Telltale's not doing anything anymore.
I don't know who's doing current batch of Lego games. I would like to play, as they call it on Outside Xbox, the Lego Marvels games. The Marvel Lego games. Would like to try those. Jane got a little tongue-tied one day. Just because there's a huge variety of characters, and it would be kind of fun to sit there and play with all. But there's a huge variety of characters in the Star Wars one as well. So I don't know.
As far as like, I stopped playing the Lego games as soon as they started adding voices.
Oh yeah, no, that's a bad idea. I don't need them to talk. I don't need them to talk coherently.
Well, the best, one of the funniest things about all the cutscenes was that absolutely everything had to be conveyed through pantomime.
Right.
And that brought a lot of the humor into the cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
So that the cutscenes were actually, every time you got to a new cutscene, it was a reward. Because you were watching a movie that you loved play out in Lego cutscene.
Yeah.
In exaggerated, over the top, and really sort of parody fashion.
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they did, to Lego's credit, they did capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm.
With some actual I want to call them shorts, Lego shorts for Star Wars, for like the Disney Channel and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I mean, eventually the whole Lego thing grew into a media franchise of its own.
Right.
Right.
Good stuff though. I enjoyed the recommendation. Somewhere, maybe it's on Steam, maybe not. I don't remember. I have the Lego Star Wars stuff somewhere. I have copies of it, and yeah, that would be a good idea. If I can get it to work online, that'd be great. It just, late in the month, you got bills to pay. You can't just go grab everything.
Right. Also, it's almost the holidays, and a lot of money is looking for that.
True, and Christmas is coming. Who knows? Maybe, whatever. Anyhow. If you want to contact the show, there's a number of ways you can do this. I'm going to lay this out here because, frankly, I think people forget what goes where and how it works. If you want to contact the show, you can always go to the website at digressionsandragons.com. Go to the episode that you wish to comment on, and just, there's always some comments in there that you can jump into and have fun with. That is a thing you should do. That will be the easiest way, probably, because then at least Scott has a chance to see them sometime before we have to record. The other way to do it is digressionsandragons@gmail.com. That emails directly to me, and then I sort of play secretary with the emails and decide which ones Scott gets to see and which ones he doesn't.
Yeah. I don't get to see a lot of them, so if you're trying to get in touch with me, don't go through Brian.
Yeah, don't go through me. Go to the website. Do your thing on the website. So those are the easiest ways to do it. There's Twitter, but that's unreliable because I hate Twitter currently.
Twitter is still a thing?
It's apparently, I'm told, it is still up and running. I don't know how or why, but it is. Apparently not everybody who said they were going to abandon Twitter decided to abandon Twitter. Or they did for like 2 weeks and then, oh wait, there's nobody talks to me now. I have to be back on Twitter kind of thing. I don't know.
I pop into Twitter once a week right now.
Mm-hmm. Not the best way to contact him.
No.
And I'm well, that's a discussion for a different time. I'm tired of Twitter. I don't know what to do about it though. Somebody made a suggestion or asked a question in the comments of our previous episode, and technically this should be feedback, but it is not. SB in the comments to episode 56 said, "Would you gentlemen share tips for setting goals?" No, I wouldn't. I would not.
You're far more afraid to end up being everybody's life coach than I am.
I don't.
It's like, sure, I'll tell you how to live your life.
No, but what I will do, what I'm willing to do, and I think what probably both of us are more comfortable doing.
Okay, I'll go with that. I'll play along.
All right, thanks. Appreciate that. What I'm far more willing to do is discuss along the lines of like goals for projects and things. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't think we're very good at life goals personally. At least I'm not.
I'm
Maybe
not good
you
at
are.
accomplishing them, but
maybe you're a genius.
I'm really good at setting goals.
Oh yeah. I can set goals all day long. Can't tell you how to get them done. I want to be an astronaut. Not so much.
I'm gonna cry now.
Mm-hmm.
Sad memory.
Yeah. The little rover went dark.
What? Really?
Anyway, no, not the most recent one.
Oh, okay.
No, that one's still fine. It's on Mars, I'm told. I didn't watch it. I figured it was either going to get there or not get there, whether I was involved or not. So,
Yeah, and the way NASA lands those things is a 50-50 chance that it's going to actually land. So,
yeah. All right. So, project goals.
we watch these landings for the same reason we watch NASCAR. We're just waiting for the crash.
Exactly. You're waiting for something to go wrong. And then y'all act surprised if it does. You know, like shuttle launches. Same thing. You're waiting for something.
Oh, wasn't that so terrible? But you're secretly glad you were watching.
Yeah. You're like, oh, man, I got to see that. Well, now I'm depressed. The humanity.
So
Why?
our goal was to talk about this topic here.
And you can see how we're doing on that particular goal. The thing about goal setting is this, and this is going to sound redundant and stupid, but you have to have some idea of what the goal is and why it matters before you can even begin to set a goal. If your goal is okay, so take, for example, I want to be an astronaut as your goal. All right.
We are still talking about goals for projects, right?
We are still talking about goals for projects. My project is to become an astronaut. Okay, great.
Related specifically to role-playing games and not anything in your life, right? Because this is not life advice.
That's right. This is not life advice. This is just project goal setting. All right.
Just want to make sure.
What I'm getting at is that being an astronaut is too broad. Okay. It's a goal, yes, but it's not the goal that you need to be working on right now. Right. It's too big. It's too broad. There are too many steps in a goal of that scope to effectively set it as the goal. Right. So if your goal is to run an amazing game, that's too broad.
Right.
Okay. You've defined, first off, nothing about the game itself. You've defined nothing about, who is going to partake in that goal. You've defined nothing about your particular role in that goal. It's too big, right? You need, the first point of goal setting is to narrow that down to something specific. So, for example, you might want to say, I want to run a Western adventure, since we talked about this earlier.
Right.
Okay. That's getting closer. You're getting there. You're still not quite there. That's still too big. Right? Narrow it down further. I want to run a Western adventure about trains. Now you're getting there.
Right.
And that's what you do. You just keep slicing off chunks that are too big until you have something very specific, a definite target point to aim for in this goal that you're about to set.
Right. And on that same token, if you do start with a very large goal, like, I would like to write a role-playing game, hypothetically.
Hypothetically?
So, right. No, I'm actually being hypothetical. Because it was the first example that came to mind.
Sure.
Where you realize this goal is too broad. Then your first order of business is to then look at that goal and break it down into individual goals that are steps that you would take to get there. Like, okay, I need to decide on the setting and the genre and the the tone of my game. I need to design an action resolution system and test it. And you would break it down into all the different pieces, and that can be very difficult. But then you end up with, instead of one goal, a whole bunch of smaller goals that you can then tackle one at a time that all still manage to be specific, right? That was what we were on, specific.
Yes, exactly. And
because I have a feeling
I
know where this is going.
I know you know where this is going. I know you know where this is going. Because what we're going to use to know when we actually have a goal that we can set as an actual goal, something that we can accomplish, is, and you're going to hear this everywhere anybody talks about goal setting. This is the method they use. It is called SMART goals.
Yeah, it's creating a SMART goal or setting a SMART goal.
Right.
SMRT.
SMART. Thank you. Nice. Very good.
The A isn't important.
That's right.
Some would argue the A is the most important.
Okay, so SMART goals rely on 5 things. They are conveniently made in such a way that they all start with a letter that spells the word SMART. Your SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Okay. And this applies from little goals in project managements and just accomplishing small things to great big huge goals that need to be broken down into smaller steps.
Right. Yeah. And if you find that the actual goal in the future is not smart, then that's when you use the trick of breaking it down into goals that can be made smart.
Mm-hmm.
You can break a stupid goal into a bunch of smart goals.
Yes.
It's the only time where smartness can actually come from stupidity.
I don't want that debate. So we're just and literally we're just going to take this step by step.
Sure.
And I'll maybe what we can do is I'll outline the step and then you can explain how that relates to project goals.
Or we could bounce back and forth.
Or we could.
We can each take a letter.
There you go. I'll start.
All right.
So SMART goals.
What's the S stand for?
The S stands for specific. All right. The goal, a good goal needs to be specific. What do you want to do? How you set this is kind of by looking at the thing and like we were doing earlier, slicing off chunks that are not specific enough until you get down to something that is very, very narrow and very focused.
And one of the easiest tests for sufficient specificity is if you can answer most of the 6 journalistic W's about your goal. That's a good test. Can you who is involved? What are you accomplishing? Where will this take place? Now, obviously, some of these are not relevant to all the goals, but if you can at least say, well, that's irrelevant, that counts as an answer. When, and why, and how.
Who, what, why, where, when, and how.
Yeah. Who, what, why, when, where, and how. One of those isn't a W.
You're right.
Right.
How is, frankly, how is actually less important in the goal setting thing, because we're going to get to how.
Yeah, that's true.
Right now, we're just trying to set the actual goal itself.
Right. So just do the 6 W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. SMRT.
Perfect. SMRT. All right. So if I were, what would I be looking at if I were, in your example, writing a role-playing game?
Well, first we would be breaking it down into, into a bunch of specific steps because that is just too damn big. Right?
Okay.
So let's say if I were going to start writing my role-playing game, I've decided it's time for me to do it. My first goal would be I want a design document. How about that? I need to sit down and write and figure out what my game is going to be like. Okay? But that's still too broad, right? It's like, figure out what your game is like. Yeah, right. So it's like, no. In 2 weeks, I will produce a 1-page pitch about my game, describing the setting, genre, tone, major modes of gameplay, and what I think is like the key selling point, the big mechanic, the USP.
Right.
Okay. So now that's a nice specific goal. To tell, who? Well, it's me. That's it. What do I want to accomplish? I want a 1-page. Did I say 1 page or 2 page? 2-page document, whatever it is. Where, in my office, doesn't matter. When, in 2 weeks. And yeah, that's
why.
Why?
Why?
Because I have. Oh, okay. I was going to be so snippy too. Because I have to know what I'm designing before I could design it. Obviously. Except that you actually should be able to say that. It's like, because if I'm going to design a role-playing game, I have to actually I have to set down what I'm designing first.
Okay.
You can't design something without. Yeah. So I should. So yeah, this is not the place for sarcasm. That was a genuine question and a question I really should be able to answer. It gives me a roadmap for my project.
So we're applying the SMART criteria to the goal of producing the project document.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. And you have answered specifically the who, what, why, where, and wins for that. So that you have you can tell that goal is specific.
Right.
Okay.
And actually, my goal was really good because I jumped ahead to the other letters and made sure they're in there.
Yes, I know. You cheated.
I did not.
All right, no. That's fine. That's fine. You're just really good at goal setting.
It's a running example, sir.
That's right. Okay, so the next piece is the M is measurable. How will you know when you've reached that goal? What is the measure for that goal of producing your project document? Mm-hmm. It's done? That's how you know you've reached it. Because you have the document in front of you.
Well, in the case of my goal, mm-hmm. that is exactly it. Once I have hit those 2 pages where I have a 2-page document that spells out all of those things that I have said it has to spell out, then yes, mm-hmm. I have attained my goal. And that's and like the measurable thing is a thing that I think gets skipped a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's actually very important to set very clear criteria for when you win, because it's all linked up to how you respond to accomplishing things. And especially for longer projects, it is key that you have things that you can point to and say, there's a victory, there's where I won, because it builds momentum for future goals. One of the biggest tricks to building good goals for projects in general is that your victories will build on themselves. So you want to keep doing the same goal setting thing and keep hitting the goals. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to rope in another example into this.
Sure.
And that's my postcard project for next year.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Okay. It's very specific. It says, what do you want to do? I want to mail 1 postcard per day to a different person each day for a year. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what I want to do. That's the specific goal itself. Is it measurable? Yes, entirely measurable. I will know I have achieved it when I have set out 365 postcards. Okay. And each day will be measurable because I can mark down on a calendar, for example, a little check mark that says, yes, I sent out a postcard today. Okay. So very simple, very measurable, very specific. It's not some broad, I just like to mail postcards out. That's too broad. Okay. And it's not measurable. Sure, I sent a postcard out. Is that the end of the goal? Does that achieve what I wanted to achieve? I don't know. Don't know yet. Probably not. It's probably too broad, too non-specific. So that would take us into the next one.
Well, and actually...
yeah, we got some more to say about measurable.
Yeah, can I bring something up? Because your postcard thing is actually a really good example of this, too.
Go for it.
You do realize that in doing that, you have also set the other side of a measurable goal, which is you have established bright lines around it.
Right.
Okay. Which a bright line is a very obvious thing that you can do or fail to do that tells you are off track. Since you're sending out 1 postcard a day, if you ever have a day where you don't send out a postcard, you know that you are no longer on track for your goal, and you need to correct that.
Yes.
Maybe send to the next day or something. But you know immediately and very easily and very obviously when you are off track.
Yeah. You're not surprised halfway through that something didn't happen.
Right.
Or didn't work the way you wanted it to work or whatever.
For me, if I'm doing that, the design document, I might set a daily word count and say, okay, well, I know 2 pages is 500 words or whatever. So over the course of 2 weeks, I have to make sure that I hit some number. Let's say it's 10 days. Because I have to write 50 words a day.
Right.
Which I might not even bother on that project because bright lines aren't always appropriate. In that case, for me, writing a 500-word document is a day. So
it's not really a project. It's not really a project.
Well, except that most of that project is actually in the thinking. Because it's actually forcing me to work out my goals for the
Yeah, and that's maybe something else we want to talk about too at some point, not right now.
Yeah.
But things that don't need to be goals and projects that need to be into this system,
Yep.
Okay. So that's for a later discussion.
Mm-hmm. Well, you made me come up with an example on the fly, so
I know.
I'm sorry, it's a bad example, Mr. Postcards.
No, but it's not a bad example. It's just an example of something else.
Mm-hmm.
That we also will need at some point to cover. Anyway, so
well, giving myself 2 weeks to do it might be too much. That might be the issue. Mm-hmm. If that was my goal for the day, then that would be a different story.
Right.
But anyway.
Okay, so we get from specific to measurable. Now the A is for achievable, and the way it's phrased in my reference material is it in your power to accomplish it? Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people will say, sure, you can be an astronaut. In much the same way, a lot of people will say, sure, you can be president. Mm-hmm. It's certainly possible. Does that mean it is something you are capable of doing right now?
Yeah.
And what achievable really comes down to is, do you possess the knowledge, the skills, and the tools necessary to actually achieve the goal you're setting? Okay. If, for example, my goal is to send out 365 postcards next year, then there are some obvious things I need. I need A, 365 postcards, mm-hmm. B, 365 postcard stamps, C, the time to do it, mm-hmm. the willingness to do it, and the continued ability to write 365 postcards, mm-hmm. among other things, okay? But those, I would say, are probably the main things that could be obstacles to my achieving the goal.
Right.
If any one of those is lacking, then that goal is not achievable for me. Okay? If I don't have 365 postcards, I got a problem.
Right.
I de facto cannot complete the goal, mm-hmm. or complete the project. So I then have to look and say, all right, for everything I don't have, everything preventing me from achieving that goal, those need to become sub goals that I need to accomplish before I can accomplish the main goal. So if I don't have the postcards, then one of my next goals is go buy postcards. Okay. It's a very simple goal. It's very easily fixed, but it is something that would prevent me from achieving the goal and needs to be remedied. If I don't have the skills or the knowledge, then I need to go learn the skills or get the knowledge.
And it could be
before I can start.
You hit a point where a sub goal is so big that you realize you have to go back to step one and make that your new goal. So if, for example, I was publishing a book and mm-hmm. I set my goal as, okay, I'm going to design the graphic layout for my book this week. And then I realized I don't know how to do that. Well, then I might accomplish a new goal and say, okay, my new goal is to take this course on graphic design on Skillshare, and complete it in the next week. Mm-hmm. So that now I have actually gone back to square one and replaced a goal with a new goal that sets me up for next week actually doing the layout.
Right.
That's not how I did it, by the way.
No. You're just
we're
an
good at giving
talent.
Advice.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to look at the achievable part. You want to basically lay out what you think all the things you need to achieve a goal, the goal that you've set are, and then make sure you have those things. That's what the A is all about. Is it achievable? Is it in your power to accomplish it? Do you have everything you need to do the goal?
The other consideration,
mm-hmm.
and this involves some sometimes difficult reflection, is do you have the wherewithal to do it? Okay?
Right.
And this is a thing where you have to learn how to be honest with yourself. Most people, when they set goals, they will set a goal that if they knew anything about themselves, they know they would not do it. I mean, I can set a goal of I want to get healthy. So here's my goal. I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours every day, every week.
Ooh.
That's a really good goal.
Are you? No,
but hell no, really... I'm not.
Is that realistic for you?
No, it is. It's not attainable. Oh yeah. See, we're talking about attainable versus realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I would consider that an unattainable goal, not an unrealistic. Yeah. Okay. I guess. I guess. So we're fading into the next letter.
We are, and frankly, frankly, they do kind of fade into each other a little bit.
Yeah,
achievable and realistic too, because achievable is, I think of it as gearing up. Getting all the gear and making sure you're mentally and physically prepared to do the goal that you've set,
and identifying anything that you need to do to prepare, and making sure that becomes part of your goal.
Right. And then the realistic thing I think of a lot as, is this really you?
Right.
Is this something you're really going to do? Am I going to get sick and tired of writing postcards 3 months in and just give the whole thing up?
Mm-hmm.
That it's a possibility.
Right.
If I'm going to let myself do that, then the answer to can I realistically achieve it is no, I can't, because I will let myself not do it.
Mm-hmm.
If, on the other hand, it's something that I really want to do and something I know I'm going to persevere and make sure I do the entire year, then it becomes a realistically achievable goal. You and your 2 hours of exercise every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm. No.
You're not that person. You're not the kind of person who will do that.
No, but what I might do is if for the next 2 weeks, I could go out for a walk every other day for a half hour.
Much more realistic.
Right.
And if the goal is for you to get into better physical shape,
that would be a terrible goal, because that's not smart. It's not specific. Get in shape is a bad goal. But here's the thing too. Okay, and this is important, because this is I'm going to share a hard-learned lesson from myself. Okay?
Right.
You are going to be the worst boss and the worst employee you have ever had, okay? When you set a goal, you are going to make demands on yourself that if any other human being made those demands of you, you would laugh in their face, okay? And you are also going to resent yourself for pushing yourself so ridiculously hard. I mean, you have the people who sit there, they're like, I'm going to write a novel. I'm going to write 10,000 words a week, right? And it's like, if someone came to you and said, look, you sit down at the chair right now and you write 10,000 words a week for the next 6 weeks.
You'd be punching people.
You'd say, what the hell is in it for me? Excuse my language. You would say, what's in it for me? It's like, well, you get the pleasure of writing a book. Well, not good enough. Okay. So one of the tricks with realistic goals, especially when you are first starting out, is not to expect so much more of yourself than you would expect of another flawed human. And if you have had a habit in the past of failing to hit goals, because you don't know how to set goals and because you procrastinate, whatever your reasons are, you want to err on the side of lighter goals to start with, because what will happen is, as you keep hitting goals in your life, it becomes easier to hit them because you do build momentum.
Yep.
So this week, I might just say, okay, my goal right now, because I am a terrible person and I hate exercise, is for the next 2 weeks, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will go out for a 40-minute walk. Okay. And then 2 weeks later, if I hit that, and I could be, oh yeah, man, I hit that. That wasn't so bad. Then I could say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to go out for a half-hour walk, and I'm going to do this cardio workout DVD that I have for the other half hour, right? Something like that,
okay.
And so what you do is you actually, hitting goals is like a muscle. The more you work it out, the better you get at it. So when you start off setting goals, especially if you've had trouble setting goals in the past on projects, whatever they are, don't be too hard on yourself, because you're just going to burn yourself out and you're just going to resent yourself. Be a good boss to yourself. And then on the other side is, be a good employee. A good boss is someone who wants to get the best they can out of the people who work for them, not run them into the ground. So be the person who wants to get the best that you possibly can give from you without you actually dying from it or hating it. And that's my speech.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 things I'm going to add to your speech.
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because I want to reinforce a couple of points.
Yes.
If you would forgive somebody else for a specific habit or behavior or approach to things or style or whatever, forgive yourself for those things as well, okay? Because like Scott is saying, you are going to hit a point, and there's no if here. You are going to hit a point where you are going to consider yourself a terrible person for not being able to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. All right. And you will blame yourself for it every single time. Now, it may be your fault. That's fine. But if you can look at somebody else who has done exactly the same thing and go, it's okay, it's not that big a deal, then that's what you need to do for yourself as well.
Right. Blame is okay. Blame is good because it means taking responsibility for what you did wrong. But blame is only half the story. The other half is then forgiveness. Just like with someone else, you can say, hey, you did this wrong thing, but I forgive you because we're all human and we make mistakes.
And then what's the other thing you do for that person once you have let them off the hook?
You give them a hug.
Give yourself a hug. You also, hopefully, if you're a decent human being, you also help them to not make that same mistake again.
Right.
Okay. That's the other half of it. You forgive yourself for your mistakes and your failings and your shortcomings and all that kind of stuff. And then take the time to show yourself or teach yourself how not to do that again.
Right.
Okay.
And by the way, you are going to make you're going to make the same mistake twice eventually.
Oh yeah.
Which is also human because it is human to make mistakes. It is human to slip when we are trying to improve ourselves. It's like if we have a really bad habit that we're trying to break or we keep failing to meet our project deadlines and we're like, okay, I forgive myself, but now I have to hold myself to a better standard and work harder. Well, any improvement is good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you would expect another person to go from making a mistake constantly to perfect behavior. So just because you slip, just because you backslide, it does not mean you have now failed utterly.
No.
You only fail when you give up. Wow, that should be one of those posters with a kitten on it.
That should.
Right?
Give up, kitten.
But it's true though, right? I mean, as long as you keep making the attempt and you are a little better every day than you were the day before, you haven't failed and you're not done,
Yep.
The goal is only failed when you crumple it up and throw it in the garbage and never try again.
The other point I want to make is that you need the snowball effect, which is what Scott was talking about when he was, you build on your successes. You need the snowball effect. Okay. Problem is the snowball effect works both ways.
Yes. Oh yes, okay? It does.
All right. If you blow a goal and keep blowing goals, pretty soon you think the only thing you can do is not make your goals.
Right.
Okay. If you succeed at a goal and keep succeeding, pretty soon you think the only thing you can do is succeed at your goals. Right. Now, if you structure your goals correctly, the snowball effect will work in your favor. You will build success upon success upon success upon success, with the understanding that every once in a while, there's going to be a rock in your snowball. Okay. But ultimately, the other side of it is if you start having trouble completing goals, then the problem is that the snowball effect works there as well. And pretty soon you're failing and failing and failing and failing and failing. And the key there is to understand that sometimes you have to abandon the snowball and start a new one. Okay. So if you find yourself with a series of goals that you aren't completing or the same goal that you keep failing to complete, you need to stop that snowball and say, okay, that snowball, we're done with it. We need to start a new one. And I need to readjust the goals I've got so that I have some achievable goals. Okay. It's not going for easy, cute little quiet goals that don't really matter one way or the other. It's adjusting the goals you've got so that they become achievable, so that you examine the goal and figure out, what is it about this goal that makes it so hard to make or to meet, right? And then start a new snowball on that goal. Just as with success, with a successful snowball, you're gonna understand every once in a while I'm gonna fail one. That doesn't mean the snowball's no good, right? It doesn't mean my goal is no good. It just means I need to re-examine things a little bit and see where I can improve. Okay? That makes sense? Did I say that in a way that made sense?
Yes, you did, sir.
Excellent. Okay. So we've covered the S, the M, the A, the R. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic. And we're now into timely. And timely is this whole, I'm going to do this for a week, or I'm going to send out postcards for a year,
or I'm going to finish this in 2 weeks.
Yes. What is the time frame for the goal to be completed? Okay. When do you want to have accomplished your goal? If your goal is something that can be done today, then 5 minutes from now is perfectly reasonable to say for goals that fit a 5-minute time frame. It's not so much that you have to that picking the time frame, the timeliness of it is so much crucial to the actual goal itself. It's that you need to know, you have to give yourself a finish line, basically.
Right.
Okay. So that when you cross that finish line, you can go, hooray, I did the thing. Right. Mm-hmm. And whatever finish line is reasonable for the goal that you've got is good. It's not like, oh, it has to be X amount of time. No, it's like, in a week, this is what I want to have accomplished. Or, this afternoon, this is what I want to have accomplished. Or a year from now, this is what I want to have accomplished.
Right.
But what we don't want to do is take things that take a month, maybe, and say, oh, this has got to be done next week.
Mm-hmm.
Like your book example, I need to write 50,000 words tomorrow. That is not realistic, and neither is it appropriately timely. Okay.
Right. And the timeliness is also important. Even it's important because it also creates exigency. It creates a sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which is very important to drive you to actually work on the goal. There's a great TED Talk. Did you ever see the TED Talk about the procrastinator's brain?
No. Do tell.
Okay, so there's this guy giving a TED Talk about the procrastinator's brain, he calls it, which in the end, spoiler alert, is everybody's brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he is talking about the rational decision maker and the instant gratification monkey, and these are the two people that live in your brain, and work, decide what to do, and you really have to watch it. It's a delightful little 10-minute talk. And it is very funny, and it's got little drawings and everything. But one of the things he points out is that one of the things that keeps your instant gratification monkey, which is the part of your brain that says, I don't want to work on that right now because I would rather do this fun thing. One of the things that keeps your instant gratification monkey in check is a creature he calls the panic monster.
Right.
Which wakes up when deadlines are approaching.
Mm-hmm.
But the deadline puts your panic monster on alert so that it helps you keep your brain focused a little bit more on the project. If you don't have the other thing is that if you don't have a deadline, you haven't set a failure.
Right.
Right. If it's like, I want to lose weight someday. Well, that's great. When are you done? And when are you, and when have you failed? Who knows? That's not really a goal. A goal is a finish line.
Right.
As you pointed out. But even if it seems like the sort of thing that doesn't need a deadline, the deadline is important because it puts your mind in the frame of mind of actually working toward what you're doing.
Yeah. It actually, you hear everybody say, or hear a lot of people say this, and I do this myself. I mean, I understand that this is how I work. Okay. I work better under pressure. Mm-hmm. You hear everybody say. So I'm going to put this thing off as long as I possibly can before it absolutely has to be done.
Right.
And then I'll do it. And I work better that way. And I know this about myself, okay? Mm-hmm. You could give me 3 months to do something. I will do nothing for 87 of those days.
I know nothing about that. By the way, the Word of the Week script is going to be late this week.
Uh-huh. I will
What's
do
the due
nothing.
Date?
I will do nothing for 87 days, but those last 3 days are where 95% of the work occurs. Okay? Why is that, do you think? Well, because those last 3 days are where I actually decide to give the project the priority it deserved in the first place and focus on it with no other distractions.
Right.
Okay?
And
because
by the way, why do you tell yourself you work better under pressure? Is that true, by the way? Do you do your best work because you had to pull 2 all-nighters to hit the deadline?
I absolutely did. No, I did not. I could have. The thing is, okay, I will tell a story now. You ready for this story?
Yes, sir.
In our high school, when you were a senior, you had what was called the senior project.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know how anybody else does it. I don't care. I didn't go to your high school. But you had the senior project. You had 3 months to work on the senior project. Brian did his entire senior project the night before it was due, okay? It was up till 2 a.m. doing the senior project. That's from, and it's a research project. That's from rough outline to finished product. Okay? All the research, all the writing, all the other stuff. These were not, as I recall, it was like 12 pages, of research and writing, and then, another couple of pages for outlines and, rough draft. You even had to have a rough draft, so I faked a rough draft. All right? It's like, all right.
I wish I could say I'd never done that.
Yeah.
I can't hold myself better than you.
All right. So I did it. Okay. And I won't tell you the grade I got on it because that will ruin the point of this story. But the fact of the matter is, had I done 3 months, I could have done a much better paper. It'd have been much longer too. Mm-hmm. And probably more well-researched and probably made my point a lot more clearly. But, the fact of the matter is, once you do something like that and you pull it off, you think, oh, hey, I work better under pressure. And if you pull it off well, which I did, you will think that's how you can work. That's the only way you can work and do well, right? Because if you're at the top end of a 90-day project, if you're at day 1 and 2, you look at that and go, geez, man, I've got 88 days to do this in. That's no problem. So easy. And it is if you start it right then. It is not if you wait till the last 4 hours. Okay? I'm just saying, don't get into that mindset where I work better. You don't. You really don't work better under pressure. As good as you might work under pressure, you work a whole lot better without that pressure, provided you can focus and get distraction free.
And you would know that you don't work better under pressure, except that you've never tried not working under pressure.
Right.
The people who claim they work better under pressure, and I'm one of them, are the people who have never tried actually spreading a project out and managed to do it.
Right, exactly. It's a lie we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better about the thing we have actually done.
Right.
That's all there is to it. So, timely, please allow proper time for your goals to be done in. Know when they are supposed to start and when they are supposed to end, and put a finish line down that you have to cross. Mm-hmm. Whether that finish line is, I need to do my laundry today and I want to have it done by 2 this afternoon so I can go out to a movie afterwards. Okay. That's reasonable. That's a perfectly fine goal. It's specific. It's measurable. Is my laundry done? I don't know. Let me look. Oh no, I still have dirty clothes. Or, oh yeah, it's done. I have, all the clothes are clean. It's achievable. You have, we'll assume you have a clothes washer and a dryer and, the capability of getting your clothes into those things and making them all work and all that kind of good stuff. It's realistic. Yeah, it's something you can do. Everybody can do it. It's a good thing. You don't have any particular difficulties and it's timely. I want it done by 2. If it's not done by 2, then I know I didn't cross the finish line when I wanted to. Okay. But it's also like, okay, that means I need to start now if I want it done by 2. Right. The other important thing about that kind of a goal, I have to tell you, is that once you have completed it, once your laundry is done at 2, you have given yourself a prize for completing it, mm-hmm. which is if it's done at 2, I can go to the movie.
Right. And then you are also not seeing guilt the movie.
Right.
Because we've all been there where, I'm going to go out to a movie tonight. And that thing that you didn't do is weighing on you. Uh-huh. Wouldn't it be so nice to be free of that?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's important, is that you reward yourself when you complete the goals. It's not part of the SMART project thing, but it is important that there is a reward there for you for having crossed the finish line and accomplished the goal that you have set for yourself. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a very big reward, although I will argue it should be in scale with the goal you have set.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say that as time goes on, you find that the rewards you need are less and less.
Sure.
So there's a certain point where, I'll say to myself, if I can finish this article today, by by 1:00, I can go sit on the couch and watch a TV show, you know, and that's all it takes. It's like, oh, just I get some couch time. That's nice, you know. Even though that's like I just cranked out 5,000 words in 3 hours, but
right,
sometimes the couch time is all
I get some time where I'm not doing that.
Right.
Sometimes that's the reward.
And the important thing is that's also the time where you're allowed to not worry about other things, where it's worry-free time. It's like, oh, I get to go sit on the couch. And because you're high on having done the thing you said you were going to do, all those other little thoughts and worries that are constantly nagging at you, like you didn't do this or this or this yet, they get quieted a little bit by the victim.
Yeah.
To the reward, I'm also going to add, and I know people have very mixed feelings about this. I find that one of the best and worst things you can do for a goal is to tell people about it.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, should I tell Scott that my goal is to, I don't know, my goal is to quit smoking, okay? We'll say.
Okay. Again, we're still talking about gaming projects and not life advice, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So if you're trying to quit smoking.
Yes. Whatever. If your goal is to, okay, fine. My goal is to never buy any more metallic dice.
Okay.
Do I tell Scott that? It seems innocuous, yes. It's like, okay, Scott's going to go, whatever. Seems easy. Just don't buy anymore.
Right.
Because Scott's helpful that way. Or is it the kind of thing I just don't mention? This is why I picked smoking, by the way.
Right.
Okay. So if my goal is to tell Scott I'm going to quit smoking, then Scott is going to be like, well, that, knowing Scott is probably going to be, well, that's probably a good idea. It'll be really good for you, be improving your health and all blah, 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 all this good stuff. And then in telling him, I have made him a proxy accounter.
Yes.
Okay. He is now, in my head at least, he is now sort of responsible for once in a while checking in and saying, how's that going?
Yeah, well, I'm really more of I'm a source of shame.
Yeah.
Because that's really because even if I don't check in, if you have someone you told that you were going to try and accomplish this goal, and then you made a big failure, the knowledge that there are people out there who know now becomes a little shame monster that lives inside of you that will at some point in sitcom style make you blurt out what you have done wrong. Right. And it's gonna. So, hey, Brian, how are you? I didn't buy dice. What? Did you buy dice? Yes.
That was an awfully specific denial.
But that's the thing. Even if the people aren't actively checking up on you, the more people who know you have a goal, the more it's basically it's putting more pressure on yourself, really.
And the way my brain, works is it would just become well I failed, but I know I just won't smoke around Scott.
Right.
Which then the logical approach then is to tell everybody in the world.
Well, this is if you're serious about quitting smoking, then I will as someone who quit smoking, tell absolutely everybody, scream it to the heavens. Yep.
Make it inconvenient and a source of difficulty for you to do that behavior anywhere. So. Yeah. But okay, so that's a bit of a big thing there. But with smaller,
on a smaller scale.
On a smaller scale, just on the dice thing or whatever. It's like if your goal, I mean, we're not even talking like negative goals. If your goal is like I want to produce an RPG, okay, and I want it done by X day, then by telling me, what Scott gets is me once in a while going, well, how's the RPG thing going?
Yeah,
there's no accusation in there. There's nothing. It's just, how's it going? Evaluate your progress on the goal for me.
Yep. And that's just even a matter of just easy, casual conversation. So you're not I'm not drafting you into monitoring my progress so much as you're just going to naturally talk about it because we're friends and we ask questions.
That's right.
You know, at some point next year, I'm going to be like, so still sending out all those postcards, you whack.
But you need, for goals, you need people like that.
Yeah.
All right. They call it being accountable to somebody, but I feel like accountable is the wrong word, has the wrong connotations, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not really accountable to them. They're just somebody who is occasionally going to check on your progress and make you evaluate yourself just by asking. Okay.
Right. See, it's interesting because when I learned SMART, I learned slightly different letters, which is why I had that attainable, realistic thing screwed up. Because I always heard it was specific, measurable, achievable, for which you are responsible, done in a timely manner.
Okay.
And that responsibility thing was the one that wraps up the accountability issue. That you are responsible for your success or failure, and that you have found ways to own the responsibility. Yeah. And then attainable also includes realistic.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's two ways to do it. As with everything, there's always two methods, at least. But yeah, finding the responsibility is an important piece of it. Rewarding yourself is also an important piece of it. So maybe this needs to be smarter with 2 R's at the end. Responsibility and reward. Interesting. I think I've just broken open the world of goal setting. I should go have a TED Talk.
Apparently they'll let anyone do it.
Apparently. But yeah, it's so find a way to be accountable and responsible for what you are doing, and then reward yourself when you have accomplished said goal. Okay. I don't know that we can devote, as much time as this actually needs, but one way I would wrap this up is by saying the SMART or smarter method is one of those things that gets broken down for folks who don't understand the process of people who actually can already make effective goals. Mm-hmm. Okay. Most folks are capable of doing this whole SMART thing in a matter of milliseconds in their brain. Mm-hmm. It just happens. I need to vacuum the house today. That doesn't seem like a major goal. Mm-hmm. All right. Doesn't seem like something you need to sit down and break down into these little parts and make sure these parts all check out. But it is a goal. Mm-hmm. It's something you want to accomplish. And you have done all these things in your head just in saying, I need to vacuum the house today.
Right. And once you get used to setting SMART goals, you'll also find that most of the time when you set goals, they're mostly smart. It's just missing something. Yeah. Like that whole, man, I really need to vacuum the house. ... Now that you know about SMART goals, you know that all you need to add to that is today or before 5 o'clock. Yeah. Or something like that.
Yeah. It's missing an element to make it an actual goal, something that you are going to attempt to accomplish.
Man, I need to get in shape before Christmas is almost there. It's just not specific.
Yeah.
So it's like, I need to run 3 times a week, every week before Christmas.
And it's important to understand that you can have a goal like I need to lose weight by Christmas or I need to get in shape by Christmas. Okay. You can have that goal, but you have to understand that goal is not a SMART goal, but all the goals you build under it to achieve that goal can be SMART goals.
Right. That goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where you break a not SMART goal down into SMART steps.
Yes, exactly.
One other thing that should be pointed out here, and this is going to drive people crazy, because this is another lie people love to tell themselves. One goal at a time.
Yes, please.
Yeah. You are not good at multitasking. You're not good at doing several things at once. You may be forced to do that in your life, but you're not good at it.
Yeah. See, I'm in a situation right now, and have been for most of this year, where I have technically 3 or 4 projects going at a time. That's not good.
Well,
that's why at the start of this year, I said, okay, transit has to be done by the end of the year, one way or the other.
Right.
Because I need that goal out of the way. I need it done. I need it finished so that I can then actually work on one of the other goals.
Right.
You know?
One of the things I have found that has become sort of, that has been a little bit effective for me is that I have started to break things down between tasks and goals.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a task is something that you accomplish every day or every week. Like writing an article for me. It used to be that writing an article every week was a goal. I would write it down and I would say, okay, by this time, yada, 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 it was a goal. And I need to go back to that, to be honest, because I'm really off my schedule now.
Right.
But once I got on my schedule, once I hit that goal, and the specific goal that I used was I wanted to, by the end of next week, be 1 week ahead on writing my feature articles, which meant I had to, in 2 weeks, write 3 articles. And that was specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right?
Right.
Once I had gotten to the point where I was writing my articles consistently again, well, now they no longer count as a goal. Now it's more of a task. It's just part of your checklist of stuff you do. Okay. And what you'll find is that as you achieve goals, if your goal is about habit forming, eventually the goals will be downgraded to tasks or habits. Like the whole, right now, if you're trying to get in shape and you have not been doing anything to get in shape, go walking every other day for the next 2 weeks is a goal. And then eventually it will scale up to, you'll scale it up to, I want to start doing this jogging training program. I will do it over 8 weeks. Okay, fine. And then you hit a certain point where it's now jogging every other day is just a habit. And that's when you can still maintain it, but you can set a new goal, and now you can have those things going on while there's a goal happening also. But in the beginning, when you're looking at all the piles of different things, like if you have not, if you have a lot of projects, because again, this is role-playing games, not advice. If you have a lot of projects that have been sitting around piling up dust and demanding your attention, then you will not do any of them if you try to do all of them. So you pick one and you say, okay, that one is my goal. And then you go through this whole thing and, break it down into steps, specific, measurable, actionable, yada, yada, yada. And then once that's on track and once it's done, or if it's the sort of thing that is just about establishing a habit, because a goal can be just about establishing a habit. Once the habit is sufficiently established, you could bring another goal in there. But you still just do one goal at a time. And everything else is second priority. And what you'll gradually find is, if you have 10 piles of things all sitting around and you manage to chip away one of the piles, and even if that's all you work on, you're still closer to having everything under control than you would be otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I will paralyze myself with choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even what we call analysis paralysis in when you're playing games. It is just I cannot actually make a choice between X number of things that all seem to share the same priority, which is another thing. The priority setting is a totally other discussion, but it is nothing. No number of things are all exactly the same priority.
Right. And what that, and the reason it's not analysis paralysis is because what we're talking about here at this point is that there's just so many things that you don't know where to start.
Right.
It's not even a matter of just choosing a project. It's you are so overwhelmed by everything that's in front of you that needs to be done. You cannot imagine how you will accomplish it all. At least that's how it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is all very relevant to me right now. Because thanks to everything that's gone on with the book and the moving and other stuff, I am in a place where I am in a big backlog. I'm in a pit. And I keep falling back into my old trap of looking around at all of the things and saying, I don't even know where to start. I'm never going to dig myself out of this. And the key was to remember all this stuff. It's kind of funny that we're having this conversation because it's reminding me of a lot of things that I had figured out. And that is, pick one goal, pick one pile. And if there's no way to set the priority, like if seriously everything is so close to the same priority that you can't choose a priority. Roll a die, because it doesn't matter. But you'll get one thing done,
Maybe that's a discussion we can have next time we do this, is how to set priorities.
That would be interesting.
I mean, I don't know how this podcast got to this point, but
somehow we have digressed.
It seems like one of the discussions we should now have is about priorities and setting priorities and how to determine what priorities are or should be. Yeah. So let's put that in the list of things we might sometime talk about.
Yep, I'm already making the appropriate adjustments.
Okay.
As the keeper of the notes.
Right. We are very swiftly creeping up on 3 hours worth of recording here.
Oh my goodness.
And we should probably wrap this up.
Okay, yeah.
So
hopefully something in there helped someone.
I hope so. If that's useful to you. And if you are one of those people who sit out there in our audience and go, yeah. I mean, they're close, but they're not quite right. Hey, chime in.
Yeah.
If you are somebody who has experience with helping people set goals and achieve goals, and what, please chime in. Send us a note or get in our forum, our comments on the episode, and help people out. Okay, whether you're in a professional capacity or whatever, just a few words is fine.
Also, remember, I feel that we do need to just say this quickly, just for any sort of liability at all. We are not actually professional life coaches or anything else.
We're not professional anythings.
Right. This is just us talking about our own experiences and what we have found work and a few books that we've read on the subject.
Correct.
Usually in a desperate attempt to fix ourselves.
I do have to admit, I do have some experience in helping others do these things, but I'm not licensed for anything. I'm not, none of that stuff. It's just experiences we have had. Mm-hmm. That's where we're at. Okay. I hope that helps. And we will, as I said, addend some stuff to maybe the next show or whatever. But in the meantime, you folks enjoy yourselves out there. We will come back to you soon-ish. And we're out of time.